Well, welcome to the Kingsman podcast. I am your host, Pastor Neal Graham, and it is such a privilege and honor to be joined today by my son, Jonathan Graham, my firstborn. And again, to have our live studio audience. We are right in the middle of EVOS. This is our second meeting for the year, and it's been an amazing time. God's already begun moving and manifesting himself. We've been talking about restoration today. That's been the theme for today's meeting, that God will restore things that are lost, things that have been stolen. And even some of us who are in a season where we're needing to step into a new season. So this is what we're talking about today. And I thought it would be really exciting for my son to be able to ask me some questions in regards to fatherhood and what that means and how that looks and the various seasons of fatherhood. But before he asks me questions, I do want to thank all of you all who've been liking, subscribing, and sharing our podcast, the Kingsman Podcast, with your friends and your family. It has been absolutely overwhelming, the feedback that we've been getting, which just tells me that in the hearts of men, there is a place and there's a space that we need, and there's things that are important to us as men that we actually need to focus and dial in on and be reminded that we are loved, we are appreciated, and that we are valued. So I celebrate every man that's here today as we dive into this time. Thank you so much for being with us. And if you have a question, by all means, we do want to be able to take some questions from the audience. So just be prepared to ask your question, and we'll get going. Jonathan, good to be with you, man.
Pops, better to be with you. Thank you for having me today. It took me a little while to get this invitation on the podcast, but good things come to those who wait. So better late than never, but never late is better.
You always welcome. You got an open seat, open invitation.
I didn't want to invite myself, but let me get to it. So you being a pastor, a lot of people, I feel like they love their career more than their wife and their kids, but I tell people all the time that I don't care how handsome you are, how much money you have, or who you know, like if you don't go home to your wife, someone else will. Mm-hmm. So how do you keep your identity in Christ and not in your career, but still showing your wife and kids that they're loved and that your career is very demanding?
I think for the most important thing is just finding the balance. If there's any word I could use, I would just say the balance. And in the beginning, as you know, that I was off balance, because anytime there's an assignment upon our life, no matter what that is, if you're called to business, you're called to ministry, no matter what it is that you're called to, it's easy to get so focused and so dialed in on what you do that you start to forget about the things that you're responsible for. You're not just responsible for that assignment upon your life as a career person or an entrepreneur or whatever it is, but you're also responsible for that wife or those kids or whatever other responsibilities that God has given you. And so for me, I had to learn that initially the hard way. I think we'll talk about that a little bit later, where I was off balance because I was giving more time to ministry and serving. That was before I was a pastor, just serving so much in ministry that I was neglecting my responsibility as a father and as a husband. And so I think when the Lord corrected me to make me realize that my first ministry was at home. And if I wasn't winning at home, I wasn't winning. Because at the end of the day, when it's all over, who am I going to want there when I'm laying on my bed and about to take my last breath? Who am I going to want to be there? Am I going to be saying, man, I wish I would have signed that last $1 million contract? I wish I would have bought that vacation home. No, I'm going to want the people that mean the most to me right there next to me. Uh-huh. So I would answer that question just by saying it's just always praying for God to give you the proper balance. Like balance, Lord, give me balance, give me proper balance. Don't let me neglect anything that you've made me responsible for.
That's good. And when did you kind of realize like, hey, this is kind of an important phone call right now, but I'm with my wife and my kids. So yeah, this is important, but this could wait because I'm with them and they're more of a priority. Because I think there were some times where it feels like, I was like, man, like your phone rings more than the president. Like, do you have a secret type of job that we don't know about? Because your phone doesn't stop ringing. Like, I know our church is all right, but we don't have 10,000 people. It's like 50 people. Like, What is so important they keep calling you?
And again, I think when you're learning or when you're new and growing a business or ministry or anything like that, you're locked in because you want growth, you want expansion. And I have a shepherd's, God's given me a shepherd's heart. He's given me a heart for God's people. And so for you to be a good shepherd, a good pastor, you feel like you have to always be there for people. But again, what I had to learn is there has to be a healthy balance, because I can't be there for people all the time to the neglect of my family. My family is my first ministry. My wife, my kids have to be my first ministry. So I had to learn to schedule ministry time. These are going to be the times that I do ministry. It's going to be from 9 to 5 or whatever, unless I specifically have said before, hey, I have this call scheduled. Is it okay? Do you guys have anything going? Can I schedule this time at 7 or 8 o'clock that night, because that person, that's the only time that they're available. And so for me, I had to really learn what was priority and what was not priority. Sometimes the things that people are going through, that they've been going through for a very long time, and they demand your attention. They demand it right then and right there. But that's control, because those same people, 2 or 3 months later, well, I felt the Lord lead me to go to someplace else, another church, where you've put everything on the back burner for that person or those people, but now your family is actually suffering. So for me, I had to learn to prioritize what was important and what was not.
So basically, your urgency is not my emergency.
I like it.
So I'll be remiss if we don't talk about time and express this story, because I remember, people think he just became a pastor. He was always serving in the church. He was serving in the choir. Before I was born, he was serving in the youth department, traveling over, just speaking to the young men. And I remember one time we were going to a church, and after church, I had my arms folded, and someone from the congregation said, "Jonathan, what's wrong?" I said, "I hate the church and I hate the choir." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because it stole my daddy." And that person came to my dad, and I had my arms folded, and he said, "Jonathan, what's wrong?" And they told him what I said, and my dad went up directly up to the choir director and said, "Hey, thank you so much, but I realize this is really drawing me a lot of time from my family. We're at church on whatever midweek Bible study. We're at church for corporate prayer. We're doing other things. And I really realized that I've kind of gotten away." So what did that situation teach you?
Again, I think that situation taught me that my first ministry is at home, and anything that I allow to steal from my family is not the will of God. Even though it's a good thing, it cannot be the God thing. Or even if it is a good thing and a God thing, is this my season to do it? And I think sometimes we get caught up because ministry and church, business, whatever it is, there's a need. And because of our heart to give and to serve and to be compassionate, all those things, we want to be the one to fulfill that need. But we always have to check in with God and say, I see the need. I hear them making the demand. What part am I to play in meeting that need, if any? And something I do now where I never thought I would do, I tell some of my sons right now who have young families and young kids, who, when something's going on, and even EVOS or whatever, and we have something scheduled and planned, they were like, "I really want to be there. My son's this." I'm like, go to your kid's recital. Go to ministry's going to go on. Yeah. That's your first ministry at home. Don't you dare miss out on your kid's life for something that you're saying is that you're doing for God, because God doesn't do that. And so you make sure that the first thing, the main thing, is the main thing. Ministry should come out of an overflow. And again, there's a special gracing on your family. Yes, there's demands that are made on you as a pastor, a leader, president, CEO of your company or whatever. there's always going to be demands on you. But the wise thing to do is to find that balance. Now, there are several PKs in here. Caleb and Joel are PKs. Larry Graham, his parents are missionaries across the world, Central and South America.
Hey man, you forgetting me.
Yeah.
Nah, just in case on camera they don't know. Yeah, that's my daddy.
But what I learned, and I've spoken to so many PKs and MKs, and sometimes the truth be told, they feel neglected. They feel like they were neglected. They feel like parents put ministry ahead of them. People in the ministry, they went off to help, counsel, minister, do whatever to those people, and they left them. And the good ones, you can get through it. But not every child is wired like that. Sometimes it sets up bitterness and they get resentful. And that's the truth. And so I'm glad what happened where I had to make that correction you were still very young. I had to make that correction. And so now it's easy for me to tell young families, especially my spiritual sons, and, hey, keep your family first. The church will find somebody else, trust me.
Yep, and just to talk about the impact that a father makes, I always tell people this story. I remember in 2007, we were playing baseball, and my dad went on a missions trip to Costa Rica for about 10 days, and we were in the middle of the season, and during that time, we played about 5 games. I kid you not, I only got on base once that whole time when he was there. I was striking out, I was just playing horrible. And then the coach one day said, "Jonathan, you know what's the problem?" I said, "What, coach?" He said, "Your dad." He said, "Your dad is the most important support system in your life. And without him being here, I just see the difference in your game." And then when my dad came back, I started playing good again. And my coach came up to my dad and said, "You are never allowed to miss one of his games ever again." But that just carried on in high school. Whenever I played a game, before the first snap of the game, I would look up and make sure my dad was there. Just in college, I run out. If I don't see him, I'm texting him, "Hey man, are you okay? Are you coming?" Because just his love and his support, I'm being dead serious. His love and his support and his guidance and his prayers. I would call him before games to pray with me, just because there's nothing like a father's love. And I just always try to tell people, you never know how much the impact you make on someone's life. And just people see me the way I carry myself and the way that I do. And I just say, man, it's all credit to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ first, but second of all, to Pastor Neal Graham, what he taught me, the things that I'm able to instill to other people. People feel like you're ahead in life. I said, man, I just listened to my dad. Literally, I just listened to my dad. But it would be funny if I don't say this, but growing up, he ruled our house with discipline, respect, and honor, which means I was raised with the Bible and the belt in that order. For those of you who don't understand, I was very...
Do what you got to do.
Listen here, I know this could be kind of controversial in this day and age, but this is what happened in our house. And this is why the way I am, and there's nothing wrong with that. So a lot of ministry kids are known for being the most disrespectful and ill-mannered and not behaving themselves in the right manner, but my dad said, "Not in my house." So a lot of times if I misbehave, before he would spank me, he would turn to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 15. Woo, just saying that scripture, man, it get me nervous. But it said, "Foolishness is bound in the heart of the child, but the rod of correction will drive it far from him." And then he would close the Bible and say, "Son, I'm spanking you because I love you." And I said, if you love me, you wouldn't beat me. He said, "Don't let the devil lie to you." So what made you understand that discipline is key for success?
You can see the world that we live in.
It's jacked up.
Big time. All that can be traced back to the home. All that can be traced back to the presence or absence of a father. All of it. As I look around this room and I see the men in this room, like I said, Some of them are PKs. PKs are and MKs are notorious for being just wow. But when I see the PKs in this room, Danny, Caleb, Larry, Joel, any other PK, yeah, Federico, they're still serving the Lord today. And maybe there was a time where they went out, wild out, and did their thing, but the foundation was there. And so what I learned is what the book of Proverbs say. Proverbs is a book for young men. It's a book for us as young men, how to grow, how to learn. It talks more about wisdom and discipline than almost anything. Why? Because when your foundation is set, when there's wisdom there and there's discipline there, it sets your life up to win. And with that absence of discipline, you're setting yourself up for failure. And so I think I was actually, I don't think I was. I know I was physically abused and emotionally abused. My father was he had a lot of trauma and drama going on in his life. And he did what he did because his own trauma and drama. But I committed that if the Lord ever gave me a family, Lord, you're going to have to show me how to love them. You're going to have to show me how to be a father. Because we think we can only learn from a good example, but the truth is you can also learn from a bad example. Yeah. And so that was kind of my thing, like, Lord, show me. So the book of Proverbs was like one of my best friends. That was one of the things I had locked in on how to be a good father, to be a good husband, the wisdom, the insight, direction that I needed.
Mm-hmm. And how did you lean on that? Because like you said, I know there's some people probably in the audience, some people watching, like they probably had a bad relationship with their father and they don't have a godly example to model it after, because like I tell people foundation is the most important thing. Like when you see a nice house, like you don't see the foundation is always laid first. Like how do you do that without the foundation?
That's where having a relationship with the Lord comes in, because again, He is our foundation. So the foundation we need, regardless if we had a dad or who did it all right, or we didn't have a dad there at all, it always goes back to the foundation. And we don't have, like my relationship with my dad was very strained for most of my life until I got into my adulthood, and really the Lord showing me how hurting people hurt people. Yeah. Like you can't hold something against him because he's hurting, he's broken. And the same way he's hurting, he's broken. He's only transferring what's taking place in his own life. So God gave me a compassion and a love and mercy for him. And so then it was like, oh, wow. Like, you know what? I better give this away, because I don't know what kind of kids I'm going to have. And I'm going to want them to give me mercy and grace and compassion. So it went from me like totally ignoring him and pretending, I don't need you in my life, to, you know what? You could only give me what you could give me, but I got to trust God to give me whatever else I need. And that means that He will place other people in my life. And He did. He placed, uncles, and He placed, my best friend, Mr. Torres. He placed men in my life who stepped into that space, and they loved me and they affirmed me and they poured into me. My older brother. So God will always place what you don't have, and if it's not there, if you ask and you pray, God will put somebody else in your life who can stand in the gap for that.
Wow. And like when you spoke up, that's really moving. But I wanted to kind of pivot with this, but it'll lead right back into it. So, how long have you been married?
February 16th, we celebrated 35 years of marriage.
That's moving, because a lot of people these days have a girlfriend and a wife on the side, literally. So like, with there been so much temptation and so much beautiful women and so many ways to do the wrong thing the right way. Mm-hmm. How did you know that it's time to put a ring on her finger? And how did you stay faithful to one woman for 35 years? 'Cause I know some fellas say, Pastor, I'm hell and I'm well. I don't want to give them DMs up. I don't want to. I can't give this. I want to do I want to do the right thing, but the streets is pulling me back. When I say the streets, the woman. How did you say? You know what? That's not the way I want to go. Because I know, of course, there probably was temptation. We're all human. Like,
Absolutely. I would say two things. I would say, number one, the way I knew I was supposed to put a ring on your mom's finger is, I graduated from high school right into college and single. And in high school, towards the end of high school, I'd gone through a couple breakups and I was just frustrated. Like, okay, I wanted to be with somebody, but I didn't want to be with the wrong person. So I really just started saying, Lord, until you send me the right person, I'm just going to be single. I'm just not going to date. It's going to be me and you. And so I locked into my relationship with God. And literally that was about 3 years of me not dating anyone, simply because I never saw anyone that I thought that fit what I wanted. Someone who loved God, who was compassionate, had a heart for God and loved people, all those things, what I was looking for. So with that being said, once I found your mom and the Lord highlighted to her, he said, that's your wife. After 3 months of dating, he said, that's your wife. And so, she was finishing college, about to head back to the Bahamas. My wife is originally from the Bahamas. She was about to head back. And my brother, who was like a father figure into my life, he said, man, what are you doing? I was like, what? He goes, you about to let that girl go back to the Bahamas? Are you crazy? I was like, oh yeah, you're right. So he spoke wisdom into my life. And when he said that, I just started shopping for rings. And when I started shopping for rings, I just was like, okay, it's time. And I knew she still had to go back and, deal with all of, planning whatever wedding or stuff we were going to do. So I proposed and she went home for a year. And, a year later we got married and came back. And we've been together longer than we've been apart. We've grown up. We got married at 23, and people thought we were crazy. We were kids. But we did. So Joseph, you're not far behind. You're 24, so it's good. But God knows how to bring it together. Amen.
That's good. Now I just want to pause real quick. I know people probably have questions, so I wanted to kind of get my questions off. But I know some people probably have questions because we have expecting fathers, people who are fathers, maybe even some grandfathers. So I know some people have some questions. So I just want to pause. Does anyone have anything real quick? You are all recorded, so don't say anything that incriminates yourself.
What's the hardest part of being a husband?
The hardest part of being a husband is that when my wife doesn't agree with me. Because, like most men, we think we're right? We think we're right. And we always want them to agree with us. And my wife is very quiet and soft-spoken. She's never yells or raises her voice or anything like that. But she can get that silent treatment and get that look like you're wrong. And I don't care how much you raise your voice and all of those things, how loud you become. I don't agree with it. And that really checks me because I know my wife, I know her. She's such a woman of God. Like she's got such a strong prayer life and her relationship with God. And she doesn't say much, but when she says something, it's coming from a deep place. And so I think the thing for me is just, that's difficult for me that when she doesn't agree with me. And when she doesn't agree with me, sometimes that's upsetting, but sometimes it's killing the pride that's in me because 9 out of 10 times she's right. Oh, she knows. I'm the first one who's like, God called you to be with me because I'm a mess.
It says in the word, husband submit to your wife and wife submit to your husband. Mm-hmm. How does that look like for a man in today's world?
So that's Ephesians 5 that you're talking about. That's actually exactly Ephesians 5:21, and that's talking about husbands and wife. I don't believe that there should be submission in a dating. I think when you're dating and when you're courting, you're getting to know each other. You are dating and courting for the intended purpose of being married, but you are under no obligation to submit to someone that you have not covenant with. So there is not a covenant when you're dating. There's simply a potential leading into a covenant relationship. But until you say I do and sign on the dotted line, and let me say this, you putting your hand on the Bible and saying you're married, that's not married. People are doing that right now, but that's deception. Unless you are legally married by the laws of the land of whatever country you're in, you're not married.
Give us a little bit of wisdom about the 35 years has taught you on finances of marriage.
35 years of wisdom and finances has really taught me that whoever is the strongest person in the finances should manage the finances. Both persons, both parties, particularly both parties are contributing, can have input, but the person who is the strongest in the area of finances for the sake of the household, to make the household run effectively and smoothly, you should have that stronger person run the finances. Now, I honestly believe with all of my heart that your wife can be the bookkeeper and she can be the CFO, but you still need to be the CEO. You still need to know exactly where everything is, where it's going, how it's allocated, where is it allocated for. There should be a budget meeting so you can specifically know needs, desires, wants, vacations, trips, all of those things. And I made the mistake early on of just making the money and then let my wife manage it. She managed horribly. She wasn't a good manager.
I hope that comment doesn't get you in trouble tonight.
It won't. It's like when I looked up, there was a lot of debt and things that had I been paying attention, it would probably never happen, because I know how I am. I'm very frugal and I'm going to pay attention, whereas that was just not her. And so what 35 years have taught me is that I used to teach that all finances should be combined at all times. I used to teach that a house divided against itself cannot stand. You got to pool your resources. You got to make. Over the years, I've grown to not believe that to be true. I believe that there should be a pooling of resources in one aspect, but I'm okay with somebody having a separate account. But we're transparent about it. We know it. You have full access to it. I have full access to whatever resources you have. You have full. There's nothing hidden. We know, we're transparent about it. But I have like a giving account. I have an account that if I want to give and I want to bless somebody, and still, even though that's a separate account, she knows about it. I'll say, hey, God's laying this thing on my heart to be to bless this person or that person. I know they're starting this or going through this. You know, what do you sense? Are you okay? Yeah, go for it. You know, or I want to buy these shoes, or I want to buy this thing, or I want to buy. Okay, I don't want that coming out of the household budget that everything is allocated specifically for. So every dollar that comes has an allocation. So if I don't allocate, if I don't tell where that money where to go, that money is going to tell me where to go. And so, you know, we learned after $30,000 of credit card debt at one time, and once I got that back under control, I learned two things: that God will always be honored first. That's called tithing. 10% of anything that comes in will always be tithed off, or offerings, to, you know, whatever above that 10%. If it's not 10%, it's not a tithe. Oh, I'm tithing. Well, is that 10? No, well, you didn't tithe. You might be giving it, but you're not tithing. So tithing, we set, if nobody gets paid, we tithe first. So we did that. That changed our financial situation. And then just allocation and budgeting, and then constant, there has to be constant going back and looking at areas sometimes. Like you need to have these ongoing meetings. You know, things change. We got this thing that came up that we didn't have before. We got, you know, kids going to college. We got, you know, this trip that we have to take. So there's constantly new expenses. And so I don't think you can just, implement something and then put it on autopilot. I think there has to be constant adjustments as seasons of your life are changing. And, now for the first time in 35, Jonathan's 29, my daughter's 26 now. Jonathan finished his master's last year. My daughter finished law school that same year. For the first time, they're finally paying some rent. And that's not mandatory, we don't, again, I just believe my house is my responsibility. If I let you live in my house, I'm letting you live there. I think responsibility would teach you should contribute at some point. If you're making something, you should contribute. And so, but there's no demands there. But, when you teach your kids right, you don't have to demand anything. They'll just do it automatically. But you want to make sure that if you are in two different ministries, that you both have heard from the Lord in terms of one not submitting to the other. And I think as a man that God's called you to lead, you're to be the prophet, the priest, and the king of your home. Scripturally speaking, your wife is supposed to follow you. She's supposed to come under covering that you, because now you're the spiritual priest of your home. So she has to trust your spiritual authority of that house. And when I've seen sometimes, if one ministry is teaching, you got to be at church 5 days a week, and one other ministry is teaching, no, your family's first. You serve, you should serve, but make sure you serve as it relates to all of the other responsibilities that God has given you. So getting both people on the same page. You're both Christians, you both love God, so obviously you're on the same page there. But when it comes to serving in different houses or ministry, I would seriously put that to prayer and say, hey, I love you. I'm never going to force you to do anything, but I think it would be good if we're on the same page. You pray about where the Lord would have us in this season, and He may allow a season of you to do that, the two persons thing, but I believe eventually God will begin to speak to one of you all and say, hey, you need to bring it together.
Yeah, because I actually saw that happen sometimes when we went to the church. We would have a husband going to one church and the wife coming to ours, and they would leave because this.
I'm not telling them to go. Be with your husband. Follow your husband.
Yep.
We're going to have to wrap it up.
Yeah, this is going to be my last question right here. So I personally seen like a lot of parents kill a relationship with their child because their child is dating someone that they don't approve of, or even it could be a friend or something. So how do you guide that where you see that the relationship is headed for destruction, but they say love is blind and they're totally blind to love?
When it comes to relationships and it comes to your children, your adult children, or even your young adult children, dating and all, there are some times that they're not going to respect your opinion, and that's okay. But as parents, many times you can see further than what your kids can see. And so when you have a relationship, what I learned is that rules without relationship brings rebellion. So why I've worked so hard to maintain a good relationship with you and your sister is because I realized that if I maintain a good relationship, that many times you will trust my wisdom. You trust my wisdom. Even if you don't agree with me, you'll trust my wisdom. So sometimes you have to allow, that young adult or young, person who's dating and heading into that, even if you think, man, that's a bad choice for them. What I've learned over the years, particularly in the last few years, where you guys really wanting to step into that whole dating thing seriously, and particularly your sister, not so much you, is to develop my prayer life very intensely when it comes to that. So I just pray, Lord, if it's the right one, let them be in their life. If it's the wrong one, shut it down. And I'm so confident in my relationship with God that I know that He hears me. And because He's given me the spiritual authority in my house, as long as you're under my roof, like, I'm kind of spiritually responsible for you. And if I could see that the enemy's trying to sneak in and interrupt your life by a Delilah, then it's, or and Delilah, in that case, I need to have the spiritual insight and discernment to be able to shut that down in the spirit. And so I know the way that I can do that. I don't have to, I just go to my prayer closet and spend time praying, Lord, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. My children shall be taught of you. Great shall be their peace. Every spirit that's not ordained of you, that's trying to distract and destroy my child's destiny, every spirit of Athaliah and Jezebel, I cut it off in Jesus' name. And I just do that sometimes for weeks. And if it's the wrong one, pretty soon, he didn't call back. No, I wonder what happened. Yeah, next. So you date to find the right one. Or you found the right one, you think you found the right one. So, but this has been an amazing conversation, man. Thank you so much for joining me on this amazing podcast.
Can I get invited back again?
Absolutely. You got to stand an invitation. You can always come. Well, guys, thank you all so much for joining us today on the Kingsman podcast. This has been an amazing time hearing your questions and being able to share a little bit about what's on our heart and getting to know me a little bit better. And being here with my amazing son that I'm just super proud of and love, and I'm grateful. And as we talk about fatherhood today, I know that many of you are stepped into that season, and that season have been in it for some time. Some of you are going to step into that season. And I just want you to know, I'll echo that. And for those of you who are listening or watching the podcast right now, make sure that you stay connected to the Father of Spirits. Make sure that he's number one in your life. And you make sure he's number one in your life. Regardless if you had a good example or a bad example of a father, he will show you how to father like he fathers. And even in that, Adam and Eve had the perfect father, but they still messed up. But you can be confident that when you stand before God and you stand before the Father of Spirits, the Bible says that you will desire to hear this, well done, our good and faithful servant. So strive for that. Strive to be the best that you can be for the glory and honor of God. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Kingsman podcast.